recording, it says.
Okay, it's recording. Okay, so all right, so I think we up and going. We're gonna try this. So um, I just want to welcome everyone who's listening right now to the Community Heroes second interview, and I have a great opportunity to interview Mr. Ben Mattlin. Um, I don't know him personally, but I reached out to him through Twitter after I read his a little bit about him, and I was just intrigued by what I read. So I'm just going to answer some questions and just kind of introduce him to the individuals who may not know anything about Mr. Macklin. So how you doing, Ben?
I'm good, thanks. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Okay. Now, um, the mission for Community Heroes is to mentor, educate, and transform. We're a new nonprofit organization that just got started in April, and we are definitely want to bring to the forefront individuals who are at risk, especially to show those who have overcome tremendous barriers. So, with that being said, uh, one of the first things I wanted to do is just let you give a little information about yourself.
Me? Okay. Well, I'm 57 years old. I was born with something called spinal muscular atrophy, kind of like muscular dystrophy. It's a muscle weakness. So I never stood, I never walked, always used a wheelchair. But I'm not complaining. I've had a pretty good life. Well, back in those days, I would have been in a separate special ed school, but my parents said no when they fought to get me into regular schools, and I did okay. And now I'm married and have two kids who are now in their 20s. Uh, my wife and I have been married 30 years, and I'm a writer. I write books and articles. Um, what else can I tell you? Huh. I'm online. You can look me up, Google me, whatever. A lot of my articles are online, and books are for sale online. And uh, I have no secrets, so ask me anything.
Okay. Excuse me. So I know you just said that you had the opportunity to be in a traditional school setting. So
Hmm.
whenever you graduated, were you the only one in your graduating class that had a disability
Oh
that you
yes,
can remember?
oh yes, definitely, definitely. Yeah,
Okay.
I was always I don't know what, a pioneer, a guinea pig. Didn't
Yeah.
want to be, but that's how it was. Yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
started college in 1980, which was the first year they were required to be accessible. So they tested stuff out on me. I mean, they just bought a van, a wheelchair van to get me around campus. Well, not just me, but I was one of the first ones. And then there were more folks who used it after me. Um, but I was, I think, the only one in my class in college as well. Certainly in high school and elementary school, whatever. I was it. Um, in those days, it was like they were taking a chance on me. It was a lot of controversy. How were they going to accommodate? School wasn't really very accessible. Teachers had to do things. But truthfully, I don't know how I managed, but I did. Uh, I did okay.
Now I know you said you went to college, so um I'm I'm curious about what college did you go to and what degree did you wind up obtaining?
Well, I was very fortunate. I went to Harvard and I majored in something called social studies, which was part history and part government, bit of psychology. At that time, I thought I should become a lawyer. That'd be a good career for me. But I really didn't want to do that. So, time I graduated, I realized I like writing. I wanted to be more creative. And in fact, I made a deal kind of with my dad and with myself. I said, give me 5 years, see if I can get any writing published, get a career going. If not, I'll go back to school, maybe law school, business school, I don't know, something more more professional. But but pretty quickly I started to get articles published, and I liked it, so I stuck with it. Now, to be honest, I couldn't actually get a job. Nobody would hire me. Uh, this was in the 80s, before the ADA, so it was legal to discriminate against me as a disabled person. But I got assignments. I mean, there were publications that wanted me to write an article or two. They just didn't want me hanging around their office. So I worked from home, and I would send it in or fax it in before we had email. Uh, that's how I had to do it. And that's how I kept busy. And then I started writing more on my own. I wrote a couple of books that never got published, but just to keep busy and keep writing. It helped that the technology got better. I mean, I really couldn't type. I mean, I could say use a keyboard like one letter at a time, really slowly. Um, at times I had to pay people to, like, I record something and they would enter in a computer for me. But then we got voice recognition software, and that changed my life. I mean, all of a sudden I could be really productive and access a computer completely. Made a huge difference in my life. Still use it today. It's been great. So I kept writing, and I've been fortunate to be published, and I'm working on a new book now, my third book, and well, it's worked out well for me. Huh.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, my next question is, in your bio, I know you said as a freelance writer, you had a couple of your works put into some national
Hmm. Hmm.
papers. So, uh, one of them, I think you said, was the New York Times that
Yeah,
you had.
I've been New York Times, I think 5 times now. Washington Post 4 times. I have pieces on the NPR Morning Edition. That was a few years ago, but they used to do little essays, and I'd go in the studio, record an essay. They were broadcast, I think about 5 or 6 times. So that's been pretty good. LA Times, USA Today, Chicago Tribune. Uh, I like doing that stuff. Little short essays. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, your books that you've published, um, what is the longest book that you have?
uh,
Meaning like how many pages?
how many pages? I don't know. It's about 200, 225 printed. So manuscript's about 300 type pages on the computer. Um, they told me not to go too long because it costs the publisher more to print more pages. They said, stop it. It's like 70, 80,000 words. About 200,
Yeah.
250 pages. Oops, hang on a second. Let me stop this. There's a thing beeping here. Hang on. Okay, sorry. Yeah. I guess you can edit that out, right?
Yes.
All right. Onward.
Okay,
Okay.
so that's great. Now kind of switching direction in the question. I know you said you are married. So I'm just curious about how did you meet your wife, and just tell a little bit about how it's been husband and being married.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I could say people have to read my book to find out. There's a lot of it in there. But uh,
You just
well,
give us a little sneak
yeah,
peek of.
it was summertime, and she was working as a mother's helper uh, for my stepmother. I have a little brother. He was he 4 or 5 at the time, and we were both kind of bored that summer. She was looking after him and had her weekends off, and I didn't have much to do. I was in college, starting college. So we went out a few times, and it was just supposed to be a summer romance. But time the summer ended, we didn't want to go our separate ways. So we kept seeing each other and moved in together, and that was an adjustment. I mean, I didn't want her to be taking care of me. Um, I was very independent. I had people to help me, and at first I just refused to have her help me do anything. But she really wanted to, you know. I mean, she cared for me and she felt she could be helpful. And so bit by bit, I'd say, okay, you can help me do this and do that, but not too much. I don't want you to get too, I don't want to get too dependent, whatever. That'd be bad for the relationship. Um, but eventually, having somebody else around to help out became kind of a invasion of her privacy after a while. So more and more she would help me with stuff and we would not have anybody else around. And that was great. And so eventually we packed up my van and two of us drove across country together. Well, she drove. I was a passenger. I would, read to her and keep her awake on the road. And we left the East Coast and ended up in LA. She had family around here. Eventually we found an apartment and here we stayed. But ever since we've had to kind of work out the chores, I still have help, full time help. For a while I didn't. When she first had, well, had our first child, we had to let the help go because it was too expensive. So she was taking care of the baby and taking care of me, and that was too much. So we had to start getting the extra help, first part time and now full time again. Um, so my wife works during the day. I have somebody here helping me during the day. But at night, it's just the two of us. Our girls have moved out now. So she still helps me at night or weekends and stuff. It's kind of a compromise. But at one time, I had, like 4 different people helping me, different shifts, just to make it easier for her. And we cut that back to just about 2 folks, one during the week and one on weekends part time. Um, it's always, the thing you have to kind of work out, negotiate, compromise. Uh, how much outside help I need, and is it helpful to her, or is it, like I said, an invasion of privacy? Um, so it's one of those things. I think couples. I use the term interabled couples. Where one has a disability and needs help, and the other one doesn't so much. It's one of those things that we have to work out, I guess, on our own terms. I guess some couples I know have a lot of help and outside help, and some have none. Just the two of them together. So it really depends. But we've kind of compromised, and there was an episode last year of Dr. Phil. We had a couple. The guy was in a wheelchair, the woman wasn't, and he said it's never going to work. You can't stay together if you're going to take care of him. And that was wrong. I mean, I know because I wrote a book about it. I talked with other couples, and people do work it out. Some have outside help, some don't. But these things can be worked out. I'm not saying it's easy. It's not easy. Other couples break up over it, but it can be done. When it works, it's great. Because you communicate well. You work as a team. You're partners together, and kind of work out your problems. And it's can make for a very good, close, intimate kind of relationship. So um, never say never. It definitely can be done, and it is done by people like me all the time.
Yeah, yeah. And just to chime in on just that part that you mentioned, being in an unable relationship myself, I know you seen the photo that I sent you of me and my
Mhm,
wife, and we have a son.
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
Dr. Phil, I, by him being a professional, I'm very disappointed in him making a comment like that because, for one, you should never underestimate the power of someone who is determined to make something work. But two,
mhm, mhm,
also, um, I'm very disappointed in him
mhm,
um, because he should have worded his words better, saying that um, unless unless adjustments are made, maybe one partner could be burned out. But
mhm,
as you mentioned
mhm,
earlier, that's whenever communication comes into play,
mhm,
and the couple works together to make sure that it works for their good. But
mhm,
you and I are proof that
mhm.
being in an interable relationship can work. As long as communication is there.
Yes, yes,
Now,
absolutely.
now you mentioned I didn't know that you said you have children.
Yeah,
Yeah,
two
so
girls.
you
Yep.
have two girls, okay. And what are their ages?
Uh, 24 and 20. So they're
Okay,
big now. They're big.
yeah. And and my next question is, they are quote unquote, and I'm using society's terminology here, non-disabled, correct?
Uh, yeah, they're able-bodied. Yes.
Yes. And the reason I bring that up because a lot of times society has this misconception that if one partner has what they would maybe
Mm,
classify that as a severe disability, that the offspring will have a disability, and that's mainly because a lot of people are not aware of how genetics work and
right.
uh, dominant and recessive genes work. And
Right. Exactly.
yeah, and like I said, myself, I have a 3-year-old son, and we went to UNC and we talked to a genetics doctor and
Hmm.
learned what the percentages are. And my son is quote unquote normal himself because I have myosin deficient muscular dystrophy,
Mm.
but my son doesn't have that. He's
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
running all over the place, jumping all over everything. So
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
one thing, yeah, one thing I've noticed is, you know, like I said, the misconception of society, and then the next thing is just going out in public, which leads me to my next question to you.
Mm.
Um, so, what could you just tell me some of the experiences early on whenever you would go out in the general public of how society would react when they saw you and your wife and realized that it was your wife and maybe not your nurse or aide or whatever.
Yes, you're right about that. Happens all the time. Still does. Uh, you get all kinds of stupid assumptions. Must be your sister, your nurse, or whatever. And I don't know. Sometimes it makes you mad. Sometimes you just laugh. Sometimes you gotta just correct the person. Teach them. Say, hey, don't that's not right. It's my wife, my husband. married or whatever. There's a story I'd like to tell. I was in the hospital. I had a pneumonia basically when she was pregnant with our second child. First child was, I guess she was about 3, and she was waiting in the waiting room. It was hard for her. But my wife was in the hospital, kind of visiting me, helping me out. And one of the nurses pulled her aside. Like I said, she was 6, 7 months pregnant, and said, "That's not really his baby, right?" She was like, "What?" And just assumed that I could not father a child. And if she was my wife, well, it must have been some other way. Not that it was any of her business anyway, but yeah, this was a medical professional who was just wrong. That was kind of the worst, I think, the time that we faced. Well, I call it prejudice, really. Uh, People assuming things. There's just, I don't know why, it's insulting in a way to both of us to assume that we couldn't possibly be together for the reasons that other couples are together. It can't be whatever love, there can't be romance, there can't be sex, there can't be whatever, which is ridiculous. Um, but I'm sure you've faced it too because every couple does. I mean, in my second book, I talked to like 15 different couples about their experiences, and that's one that just comes up over and over again.
Since we're sharing experiences, I'm gonna share this one.
Yeah.
Um, Me, my wife, and my son, and my mom. My mom stays with us. She has some medical issues.
Hmm.
Hers are more mental. And there's a friend of mine. I've been doing mentoring for a long time. I work in higher education, so
Mm.
I've run across a lot of students who just really need a mentor. And there's this one particular student that uh, I, 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 I ran into, and then later on down in life, I ran into him again, and he was outside the school system. That he was actually my mom's neighbor,
Mm.
and we befriended him. And this particular day, we all went out to eat at Burger King, and we're
Mm.
eating, and as we're leaving, I have a a Chrysler Town and Country van. Nothing
Mm.
special. Now I can't afford a
Yeah.
modified van, so I got ramps.
Hmm.
So my wife is putting our son in his car seat, and she's putting the ramps out, preparing me to get in the van. And my mom's getting in the van, and the guy who has a mental disability, he's with
Mm.
us also. He's getting in the van, and as she's doing that, uh,
Mm.
there's a guy who comes out, and he's about to leave. And as he's pulling off, he looks at my wife and flags her over, and he asks her a question, and then he drives off, and she comes back and she's kind of laughing, and she said, "You know what that guy asked me?" I said, "No, what did he ask you?" She said, "He asked, what group home do you work with?"
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, um,
Ah.
for one, why would a person in a group home have a baby with them?
Yeah. Right.
You
Right.
know, but it
Ah.
was just you get those things like that, and like you just said, sometimes you have to realize you got to just let it roll off your shoulder because people if they knew better, they would do better. That's my
Yeah.
philosophy.
That's right.
And that's just one of a couple of stories. Because like I said, we've traveled and we've experienced it in various places, and just part of the package. But it only makes you stronger as a couple, and
It does.
like I
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
and ultimately, hopefully, with my nonprofit, through seminars, through podcasts, through brochures, we can maybe some kind of way break this mindset
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and make people aware of the emergence of interable relationships
Mm-hmm.
because with as technology advances, we're going to see more and more individuals who have special needs and are at risk at the forefront.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. I keep a wedding picture up in my living room. People can see it because a lot of people, especially as we've gotten older, people assume that we got married when I could still walk, and something must have happened to me, and she's just hanging around because she's loyal and noble and doesn't really want to be here. And we're saying, no, this was always part of the package. It's part of our romance, part of who I am. Uh, it's always been there. And again, it's another assumption people have, especially as you age. That I mean, it happens to people. A lot of people start out not interable and end up interable because they get older and they get injured or ill or whatever. Uh, but but yeah, there are a lot of folks like us, like you, who it's just another thing, another aspect of your marriage, and I think if you can make it work, you are stronger as a result. And maybe as you age and things, fall apart, you're better prepared for it, maybe, because you've already faced some of those things. Does that make sense?
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's all really. I don't know if it makes sense, but seems like it to me that you've dealt with things that other couples don't have to deal with, and that's a good thing. That makes you communicate better if you can do it. It's I don't know, kind of bonds you together.
Yeah. So, I got a couple more questions. Then we'll kind of wrap this up.
Okay.
So, my next question is that can you tell me of a particular person that you can think of that has been a support system for you to be able to accomplish, going to college, becoming a well-known writer and publishing books. And
uh, well, let me think. I've had a lot of friends along the way. People have encouraged my writing and my life. Obviously, my family, my parents were always supportive. um, and I met a lot of other disabled people. When I was young, I didn't want to hang out with other disabled people. I'm not one of them. But as I got older, I realized how stupid that is. And, you can learn a lot from other people. You share experiences, and you gain a sense of pride, I think, in what you and frankly what other people like you, what other disabled people have done, some of the things we faced, uh, medically, financially, uh, yeah, prejudice, people's assumptions, strangers on the street. We face that and we keep going somehow. And that is, well, it is inspiring. We inspire each other, I think. Uh, so that's always helped me, just meeting other people who know the territory and have figured out ways to deal with it. And we don't always agree about the best way to move forward, but knowing it's been done before and can give me a perspective on what's going on. And if people make you feel bad, well, yeah, it happens, and they shouldn't do that. It doesn't mean that they're right and that you are something wrong with you. It means that, as you said, they don't know. They don't know better. So learning about that stuff from other people in a community who've been through similar situations, I find that very powerful and very helpful.
Okay. Just yeah, I totally agree. And the last question here, um, what message would you like to say? Well, what is the message that you would like to relate to anyone that has an encounter with you or reads your book or article?
Uh, one message, huh? I got a lot of messages. Um, I mean, uh, obviously people should not judge other people, particularly based on assumptions, based on appearances. Um, uh, you know what they say, disabled people, disability community is the largest minority in the world and the only one that anybody can join at any time, one car accident or whatever, or just from aging, uh, people do. And so a world that is more accessible and really values people who are different, it's better for all of us. It's not an us and them thing because you may not be disabled now, but you could be someday. And chances are, if you're not, you know somebody who is. They say like 1 in 5 Americans has a disability. I mean, it's not that unusual, not that odd. It's a normal thing that happens all the time, always has, and always will. We really ought to not put people separate or make it difficult for them. People should feel part of the community and their views should be valued. And, uh, anybody who ever wonders what to do, how to be around someone with a disability, well, just be natural, be yourself. If you have any questions, ask them respectfully, but don't assume. Uh, Like when I go down the street and a little kid starts to stare or point, and the mom or dad or whatever tells the kid, "Oh, don't do that. Pull away. Look the other way. Don't." Uh, well, I understand that, but maybe the kid should look and ask a question and learn. Instead of I'm not some thing to look away from or to avoid. I just if it is if seeing someone in a wheelchair is new and different. You're a kid and you're curious, and that's okay. Ask me. I might not feel like answering that day. That's okay, but I just might, and we might kind of learn. You might learn something new. So I think it's kind of a good lesson, a good moral for the community, for society, to be more open and welcoming and willing to learn and to accept and value people who might be different.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Ben, for taking the time out to interview here with Community Heroes.
My
Thank you,
pleasure.
listeners, and thank you, listeners, for listening in. And like I said, we have plenty more interviews coming up, and we'll have some information about Ben on the YouTube description section. So definitely check out Ben, check out his books, and support him. And again, Ben, like I said, thank you so much for interviewing with us.
Oh, thank you. This was fun. Anytime.
All right. Bye.